All right, here we go. How's everybody doing? Fantastic, I hope. What we're doing here is a strange idea that I've had or carried around, and anybody who's kind of tuned in briefly here and there on any of these videos kind of understands what goes on in my skull a little bit. I carry these ideas around for a while, and I just sketch them over and over and over and over. And it probably won't be the last time I sketch it, because I just have variations on, just playing variations on the theme. I get very repetitive. Maybe it's a little nutty on my part, but I've had this idea for a cross between a spaceship, kind of like a Millennium Falcon, with a robot or a mech. So you'd have a ship, a mech that would kind of serve that same purpose as a Millennium Falcon. Maybe it would be some kind of Corvette-sized cargo hauler or something like that. But it would also serve the purpose of a mech, or you could land with your feet and walk around the ground. I have no idea why. It just kind of it's an idea that sort of intrigues me. Probably has absolutely no use whatsoever in any way or anyhow, but that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just kind of exploring the different configurations. I have a cockpit in the head there in the skull. It's just like a dome with a bubble, a glass bubble for the windscreen or whatever. No wind in space, so it serves at least to contain the atmosphere. And I'm just doing it from different positions. That ship in the middle was something I threw down on the paper, kind of like another idea that blasted into my skull that I just wanted to get down before I lost it, and I left it there. So insofar as this drawing goes, it's just kind of coming along for the ride. It's got nothing really to do with what I'm working on. So it's a little extra aside sketch. So I'm just trying to work out how this thing might stand or pose and maneuver. And I'm just doing a close-up of that cockpit area because I'm curious how that would look in this particular configuration. I have done some where the pilot was, of course, in the eyes, but I wanted to maybe think of the eyes as sensors. They would be sensors that would be working as radar or additional data collection information, and what a perfect place to put them in the eyeballs, and they just feed back the information directly to the pilot. And of course I threw some guns on there. Now I went through a phase where I wasn't putting any guns or gun looking things on stuff or any of the machinery, not necessarily because a pacifist bent in me or anything like that. I just always figured that in the future you wouldn't necessarily have guns exactly. You could have you could manipulate, you could use your warp drive or whatever to manipulate gravity around your adversary and just crush them. You wouldn't need you wouldn't need projectiles to fire at them, or your psionic weapons would melt their brain or something like that. It would just be less obvious that you were bristling with weapons. All right, and just sketching these ideas out, and I'm throwing a little bit of the pen on there. It's not going to be a big paint watercolor situation, although maybe I will. Yeah, something like this I could scan in easily and just sketch it or color it digitally. But I've kind of stepped away from digital for a while. I haven't, maybe a month or two or three, and I've been all pen and paper and that kind of stuff. I've been enjoying it a whole lot, and it just like when I'm working digitally, it always the colors seem muted, or I'm even though I have that free range with the computer and that you can always undo it a million times, I still end up, maybe it's just becomes part of my personality, but I still end up being very cautious and stepping away from it, not thinking I like what I did, or maybe not, that's not the right word, but I don't think it's fully realized as it should be or it could be, and I failed the idea. And I do feel like that a little less with the paper or the traditional medium. And I'm mixing the pencil, just shading with the ink, the pen and ink, and the head in this little cockpit area, I was happily surprised with how it kind of turned out. I had a little trouble keeping my circles my circles round, but whatever. I will have this idea down and I can move on from here. I will have exercised it from my brain. Probably not though. And that's what I have: guns on the shoulder, kind of like swivel mounts, and then guns on the skull with the jet backpack. And I should have done a rear view, but I didn't. Throw it on this one, or at least throw it on the video. That's another thing, is I used to have a couple projects in the works at any one time, but the day job is kind of getting in the way at the moment. So I am able to scrape up some free time when I can to pull some of these off. All right, that's what I'm going to blame it on. The day job keeps the electricity on, and the cupboard full of fish crackers and root beer. All right, yeah. And there's some missile mounts on the shoulder along with those cannons. Some hoses and whatnot. I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it. And for that cockpit, cockpits are kind of easy because you can layer up detail and it doesn't really have to make sense. It just kind of is visually recognized as cockpit doodads. It's a shared language of the cockpit. I guess there's these conventions that nerds might understand. I had a book, The Man Cross Perfect Memory, with the cockpits of the actual design concepts of the different cockpits of the spaceships, and it was just mind-boggling. And you could just look at it and knew exactly what it was, but even though it was just overwhelming with detail and buttons and handles and controls, it's that universal language of a control area, also known as the cockpit. All right. The fist on the right hand there looks a little goofy, only because it kind of looks like he should be holding a teapot and he's going to be offering you a spot of tea. Right. And I could have just kept playing with that design forever and adding things to it and looking for places to throw like cargo pods on it where those would be carried for your cargo runs, and adding more guns and probably pop off weapon systems, kind of thinking of modular plugins that you could do for your typical Millennium Falcon requirements or blockade running. But I guess a blockade runner would not necessarily need guns, right? Because you just got to run through it fast. So, more motors, more engines, and they got engines in all over the arms and the legs to give you all kinds of degrees of rotation and control. Because they don't have to be fixed at that point. You can just position them with the arm to go where you want to go. I overthink a lot of this, I know. Really. Anyway, I'm having fun. It was a fun little project. I don't want to get too crazy with some of the sketching. This is really just an exercise in getting the idea out. It's always good to practice a little sketching or shading, but sometimes I'm not always going for that position of where the light's coming from and what's casting shadows. I'm just trying to get something a little dramatic so I can see it, so the detail pops and you get a rough idea of the form and the shape. And mostly that's a good excuse for not being good at shading and following through on the darkness and the light areas. Just slap some stuff on here. Get this thing done. Make it look like it was meant to be there. That's cool. I didn't notice that in the when I was drawing it originally, but that looks very sketchy. Kind of like that. I kind of like that rough, sketched out, not over rendered appearance. That's just me though. All right. Well, I think we're getting close to wrapping it up. And I'm kind of getting I think at this point I was kind of getting bored with the whole sketch, as often happens at this stage of the game. And there we go. If you stuck around this long, I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Bye.